Roads have been closed yesterday. The motorway between Belfast and Dublin, which runs not far from here, it was even affected for a while. Some railway lines also had to close because railway tracks were submerged. Gradually, the disruption to transport has been easing, but certainly what's happened here will live long in the memory, I think, for everybody living in Uri, but particularly for the retailers, the restaurateurs, the office workers here. They'll be counting the cost for some time to come.
Indeed, thank you very much. That's our Northern Ireland correspondent, Chris Page there. Well, let's get more details on the storm now and head to the BBC Weather Centre and speak to meteorologist Chris Fawkes. Chris, thanks for joining us. Chris, what's the cause of this latest storm?
OK, so we're looking at Storm Ciarán here, Catherine, on the satellite picture. It's this area of cloud you can just see here. Now, I've overlaid the top of this area of cloud, and you can see the jet stream blowing pretty quickly. In fact, the winds high up in the Earth's atmosphere at the moment are blowing at around about 200 odd miles an hour, and it's that's causing this rapidly developing storm system to emerge. This area of cloud you can see here, this is what Storm Ciarán is, and it's this that will be bringing very strong winds. So essentially, Storm Ciarán is a result of the jet stream, which is caused by the powerful temperature contrast that we have at this time of the year across the northern hemisphere. Of course, the polar region is starting to get dark and cold, and we still have remnants of heat left over from the summer further south. Those contrasts make a strong jet stream, and that's what's making this storm system so powerful.
Yes, and Chris, as we've been hearing, certain parts of the UK, like Jersey, are preparing for the worst. But is it going to be bad everywhere?
It's not, Catherine. I mean, one of the interesting things, I think, with Storm Ciarán is just how much variability in the wind strength is going to be. For parts, but not all, parts of southern England, gusts of wind around 70, 80 miles an hour, strong enough to bring down one or two trees, so some disruption to be expected. However, the strongest winds are going to go into northwest France and the Channel Islands, where gusts of wind could go over 100 miles an hour. Winds that strong will be powerful enough to rip a few roofs off buildings. So we're talking about structural damage. I think there'll be lots of trees being brought down by those very strong winds, particularly given that the leaves are still all on the trees after our relatively mild autumn so far. And so the winds will have a much bigger effect, you see. And so I'm expecting widespread transport disruption, and I think almost certainly we'll see some significant disruptions to power supplies as well. Is it going to be bad everywhere? No, it won't be, because if you look at some of the wind strengths we're expecting across parts of southern England, Southampton 57 miles an hour. You know, it's a windy day, but we see that often during the autumn-winter season. And a similar picture in London, where gusts 47 miles an hour. It's going to be windy, but it won't be the windiest day you'll come across this season. Now, we'll take a closer look at Storm Ciarán then. It really brings this zone of violent winds behind this cold front. It's the surge that we get across northwest France and into the Channel Islands. That's where we're talking about the violent gusts of wind that will have the largest of the impacts. Across the south of England, meanwhile, the winds will really start to get going overnight tonight for the Isles of Scilly, Cornwall and Devon. Could be some impacts here. And then again later in the day on Thursday, we could see some impacts across parts of Sussex and Kent. One thing to notice with this area of low pressure, Storm Ciarán, in the centre of it, there aren't many isobars at all. And so that's the reason why, for quite a few places, the winds won't be that impactful. It won't even be that windier kind of day. The strong winds really limited to parts of the southwest, the southeast, and especially the Channel Islands and northwest France, where the winds, as I say, are going to be violent.
Thank you very much. Some tense days ahead for some residents in different parts of the UK there. Thank you, Chris. Well, let's get some of the day's other news now. Tens of thousands of children in the west of Scotland are off school today because of a strike by support staff. Non-teaching staff, including caterers and cleaners, are walking out across Glasgow, Renfrewshire, East Renfrewshire and Inverclyde in a dispute over pay. Local authorities say they can't afford higher wages. 2 further arrests have been made by officers investigating the felling of the world-famous sycamore gap tree in Northumberland. The landmark, which was planted in the late 1800s and sat beside Hadrian's Wall, was chopped down overnight on the 27th of September. Northumbria police said 2 men, both aged in their 30s, were arrested on suspicion of criminal damage. A 16-year-old boy and a man in his 60s who have already been arrested in connection with the incident and remain on bail. A Metropolitan Police commander has been sacked for failing to provide a sample after being accused of smoking cannabis. Julian Bennett had served with the force for more than 40 years and wrote part of its drug strategy. A disciplinary panel was told that Scotland Yard rejected his offer to resign. Mr. Bennett's lawyers say they will appeal. Now let's have a full weather forecast now with the latest details on Storm Ciarán. Here's Carol.